why men and women decide to break up for different reasons, and how to prevent it. Welcome to Hidden Facts Academy. They ended it out of nowhere and I had no idea why. We were so close I still can't understand how it just stopped. I wasn't even thinking about breaking up. But apparently they had been for a long time. If any of this sounds familiar, you're not alone. It's not that the other person was lying. It's not necessarily that they stopped caring. The mechanism behind how people decide to end a relationship is simply fundamentally different between men and women. In this video, we'll break down the psychological mechanisms behind how men and women arrive at the decision to break up, drawing on research. And for each mechanism, we'll share concrete ways to prevent a breakup from happening in the first place. On this channel, we deliver knowledge like this from the world of trivia and science every time. So that you can come back and review it later, go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications right now. Now let's get into the main topic. One important fact to know first. Before getting into the mechanisms, there's one key finding worth sharing. Multiple studies, including research published in 2025, consistently show the same thing. Women are more likely to be the ones who initiate a breakup. This doesn't mean men lose interest more easily. If anything, it means women are more likely to reach the point of decision. But the process that leads each of them there looks completely different. How men decide to break up. For men, a breakup rarely comes from a single moment. It tends to be a gradual cooling, something that happens slowly over time. Behind this is the brain's reward system. The brain responds strongly to novelty and unpredictable rewards. The excitement of early romantic interest, the sense of wanting to know more about this person, is the product of this system firing actively. But as a relationship matures and a partner starts to feel figured out, that stimulation gradually fades. Being together is comfortable, but the excitement isn't there anymore. Research has shown that men tend to place greater value on novelty and stimulation in romantic relationships, and when that feeling diminishes, their investment in the relationship can start to wane. What's important here is that men tend not to put this cooling into words. Dissatisfaction goes unexpressed. Something feels off, but they let it pass. Even when the relationship has problems, they don't actively push for resolution. They just stay in place as things continue. Research from Bucknell University has shown that men are more likely to cite a lack of physical connection as a reason for ending a relationship. But this isn't purely about the physical. It's also a response to the fading sense of being treated as someone special. Research also shows that men tend to rely heavily on romantic relationships for emotional support. This is partly why men often don't initiate the breakup, even when they've already cooled. Checked out but not saying anything often comes from this structure. Reading the signs that a man is pulling away. Because a man's cooling rarely shows up in words, it tends to appear in behavioral patterns. First, watch for changes in the frequency and quality of contact. He used to reach out first, now he's become passive. Replies still come, but they've gotten shorter. Second, time together drops in priority. He's suggesting fewer dates. When you suggest them, he's finding more reasons to pass. Third, emotional distance grows. Even when you're together, he seems somewhere else. Physical closeness and emotional conversation have decreased compared to before. When several of these overlap and persist over time, acting sooner rather than later matters. How women decide to break up. For women, the process is entirely different. Put simply, it happens when accumulated emotion crosses a threshold. One or two frustrations won't move her. What builds is the experience of, "I've said this before, and nothing changed." Small disappointments, repeated hurt, a history of words that didn't land. When enough of that accumulates, a moment arrives where she feels, "I've had enough." The same Bucknell University research found that women are more likely to cite a lack of emotional connection as a reason for breaking up. The gradual accumulation of feeling emotionally unfulfilled, of not feeling understood, is what drives the decision. What matters is that by the time a woman brings up breaking up, she has already spent a long time working through her feelings. The stage of maybe we should talk it through, or maybe we can start over is long past. That's why, when a woman says she wants to end things, trying to hold on rarely works. For women, everything depends on whether you notice before she says it out loud. Reading the signs that a woman is pulling away. The early signs of a woman's departure tend to appear as changes in emotional engagement. First, she stops sharing emotionally. She used to bring her worries to you naturally. Now, "I'm fine" is all you get. Second, she stops expressing dissatisfaction. This can look like things have settled down, but it's actually a warning sign. Voicing dissatisfaction means she still expects things to improve. When she stops saying anything at all, it can mean she's letting go of that expectation. Third, she starts avoiding talk about the future. If "let's do this together someday" has stopped coming up, she may no longer be imagining a future where this relationship continues. At this stage, there may still be time, but by the time a woman says the words, it is usually too late. That's precisely why acting at the sign stage is what matters. On this channel, we deliver this kind of knowledge every time. If you don't want to miss future videos, go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's continue. How to prevent a breakup for men. If your partner is a woman, here's what to keep in mind. The first is to keep the emotional connection from breaking down. The number one reason women end relationships is a lack of emotional connection, which means as long as that connection stays intact, the energy needed to make that decision is unlikely to build. In practice, put your phone down and make eye contact when she's talking. Before offering a solution, return empathy first. That sounds really hard. That one response protects what you might call her emotional reserves. The second is to stop repeating the same mistakes. The accumulation that leads women to break up isn't caused by one or two incidents. It's caused by repetition. The more times the same thing causes hurt, the faster those reserves run out. When a partner keeps bringing up the same frustration, that's a sign she still expects things to change. If she can actually feel that something has shifted in your behavior, that is the most effective thing you can do to slow the process toward a breakup. The third is to bring up the future regularly. "Let's go somewhere together. I'd love to do this with you someday." Words like these give your partner an image of this relationship continuing. Keeping future topics alive before she stops, bringing them up herself, helps maintain the warmth of the relationship. The fourth is to regularly check in on how the relationship is going. Creating deliberate moments to ask, "How are things for you lately?" or "Is there anything on your mind?" gives your partner a place to speak before frustrations accumulate. This is one of the most important maintenance habits a relationship can have. How to prevent a breakup for women. If your partner is a man, here's what to keep in mind. The first is to actively create novelty. The primary driver of a man cooling is the absence of stimulation and freshness, which means as long as there is unpredictable enjoyment continuing within the relationship, his engagement is easier to sustain. Suggest somewhere you've never been together. Show a side of yourself he hasn't seen before. Talk about an interest or curiosity he doesn't know about yet, keeping alive the sense that there is still more to discover about. You is what matters. The second is to protect his sense of competence. Men tend to place value on feeling that they are useful to the person they're with. Telling him specifically in real moments, "I'm really glad you're here." Over time, this reinforces his motivation to stay in the relationship. Conversely, when actions that chip away at a man's self-regard keep recurring, the quiet cooling tends to accelerate. The third is to create space for him to talk about how he feels. Men tend to struggle to put emotions into words. Asking directly, "What are you thinking lately?" can make him defensive. Side-by-side settings in the car, on a walk, over a meal, tend to make it easier for men to open up emotionally than face-to-face conversation does. Deliberately creating those situations gives him a chance to put the cooling into words. And once it's in words, there's a possibility of doing something about it. The fourth is to express gratitude for the relationship out loud. "I have a good time when I'm with you. I feel at ease with you." Saying things like this naturally within everyday life maintains a man's desire to keep the relationship going. The longer a relationship goes on, the easier it is to assume they know how I feel. But gratitude that isn't spoken doesn't reach the other person. Making the conscious effort to keep saying it is what matters. See you in the next one.